Hey everyone, welcome back to the podcast. We are here breaking down The Last of Us Season 2, Episode 6, The Price. I'm your host, Tamara, and I am glad you hit play on the episode today. Please be sure to follow us on all of your favorite social media platforms. The link to find both me and Lisa are in the show notes. And if you like what you hear, hit the subscribe button. You won't want to miss a single episode as we journey through this season. Joining me is show co host Lisa. Welcome back, Lisa.
Hey Tamara, hey everyone. My name is Lisa Orban. I am an author. I am also the founder of Indies United Publishing House, and I love all things pop culture.
Okay, so if you are new to the podcast, we are laid back in our review style, right, Lisa?
Absolutely, Tamara. This is a conversation, not a dissertation.
Right. No scene by scene breakdowns here. We jump around. And of course, huge spoiler alert for everything through yesterday's episode. The only spoilers you really don't have to worry too much about are from the game, as we did not play it.
We did not.
No, we did not. So if you're cool with that, this is the place for you. And we should just jump right on in because I think there's a good amount of things to talk about. What do you think?
Yeah. Figured out the origins of the coffee beans and why she smiled and she put them in front of his tombstone.
Yeah, actually, there was a lot of revelations in here, a lot of good tidbits, and actually, it really made me feel good about their relationship as well.
Yeah. I mean, you can. So we had been assuming that part of her being mad at him was her finding out about what he had done, saving her.
Mm-hmm.
And it turns out, I mean, it is, but there was a whole bunch else going on in that background that we just didn't see.
Right.
And I liked the clarification.
Yeah, same. I thought that, honestly, I thought, Joel's really good at gift giving in an apocalypse, let me tell you.
Oh,
Like,
dude, I wanted him to be my dad.
I know. I'm like so thoughtful. He like gave thoughtful gifts. I feel like his love language is acts of service, that character.
Oh yeah, and I mean, I did find out that scene with her climbing up the dinosaur. I'm
Hmm.
on a dinosaur is actually from the video game.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. Which is kind of cool. And so is the space scene when
Right.
she's like pretending to go to space or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Very cool. Both of those scenes, like actually, I think that was really unique that they used her birthday to kind of like highlight this progression instead of some random days.
Right. And so we're jumping forward year after year, and we're seeing her grow, and they're and we saw how tight their relationship was at the beginning.
Hmm.
Um, that and we saw the origin of her scar, and then
Yeah.
the tattoo, and all these little different things that have been there this whole season. We just didn't know where they came from or what their significance were.
Right. And so first, let me just say, I'm not like a huge fan of flashbacks, but this episode was so well done.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, this really fit. You know what I'm saying? We got everything we needed in just enough time. It wasn't overkill in any area, really. It was really well done, overall high level.
Mm-hmm.
Um, because I really didn't think I wanted to see Joel again, but it was a pleasure to see him
Yeah,
again. Yeah.
and you can see his, part of that gift giving, I think, was his guilt for what he had done, and trying to make her feel like her life is very meaningful.
Hmm.
um and and I think he really did a good job of that until, well, she's rehearsing that speech. I need to know what happened on.
Right.
So she has had these doubts for a while,
Hmm.
wondering about certain things and being very confused. And I get it, because like she said, they saw the two of them rolling up miles away from the facility, and yet didn't see raiders. That
Right.
seems a little odd. And you know and you can see that she wants to believe what he said. She wants to have faith in him, and yet that those doubts are creeping in.
Yeah.
So when he killed that guy, after telling her, "Oh no, I'll keep him alive. It's fine." Yeah, I mean, it all just it hit her, and she was angry.
So there are a couple lessons that I think the audience at large can take from Joel's, experience here. Like, lies don't equal protection.
Right.
And the the girl wants the truth. And I feel like, speaking about Eugene specifically, he did the right thing. He could not have pulled Eugene back there and endangered more people. What his actions were okay, but where
Hmm.
he messed up was lying.
Right.
He should have just said, "Look, you know the deal. This probably is a rule. It's probably a rule, right?
And he said so.
Yeah,
We have, this whole thing to keep everyone safe. We don't bring them back.
right. So don't try to appease her. Don't do any of that. This was She's 19 right now,
Hmm.
She's old. Look, girl, sorry. I know you want that for him. I wish I could do that for him, but I cannot.
Right.
That would have ended totally different. You know what I mean? That would have She probably would have had to bring that conversation up with him another way because he wouldn't have lied to her in that moment.
Right.
But I don't know. Joel just doesn't understand. He thinks he's protecting by lying and is making it worse.
Well, and he did try at first to say, we can't do this. And he's arguing with both of them. No, we can't, there are rules, there's the safety of the settlement. And, and while, she did that 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, hold out your hand test, that's still not exact.
No, that doesn't mean anything. He could be able to do that now, and in 10 minutes, he can't.
Right. And the fact that as they're walking back, he couldn't remember which way to go.
Yeah.
And you could see him starting to forget things. And
Yeah.
he was already on that downhill slide before she ever got back with the horse.
Mm-hmm.
And horses, I guess. But I guess for me, I was like, they have radios. Why didn't they just radio and have him talk to his wife? Because that's really all he wanted, was to hear her voice.
Honestly, that would have been so smart. Just radio back and say goodbye to her because we cannot take you back.
Right.
That was really unfortunate, but that was, like, the last straw for Ellie, and she could
Hmm.
tell by the way he just lied to her face, like, "Oh my god, that was a lie before," you
Right.
know?
And
Yeah.
and it and the unfortunate thing is, his wife could have had a not a peaceful ending to his end, but at least taken some comfort in Joel's words. And so when Ellie ripped that anger out, it wasn't just at Joel. I mean, there was scattershot there. Everyone was damaged by her anger.
Yeah, definitely, and I think, like I just said a couple minutes ago, had Joel handled that differently, if he chose, like, let's say they couldn't use the radios or whatever, and he just had to kill Eugene, I think that whatever lie he told Gail, I think Ellie would allowed it, right? Because it would have
Hmm.
saved her feelings. But it was because she was lied to. It was like the last straw. It was just
Right.
word vomit. Just came out.
And you could, I mean, she was
Yeah.
so mad. And I can see Ellie's point of view.
Mhm.
She has been lied to, and he has lied to her for a long time now.
Yeah.
But I also see Joel's, he was trying to be responsible. He was trying to say that, he was trying to do the right thing. He really was.
Yeah, and I
But
do think he did the right thing. I do. I think
yeah,
just where he fucked up was lying. You just can't
exactly.
lie.
And I agree with you.
Yeah.
Um, I also, as a parent, though, I also have been there where the kids are, please, 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 and
Yeah.
you're like, anything to shut them up.
Yeah.
And I think because they were both just pushing this idea over and over, um, I think Joel felt a little trapped.
Mhm. I don't know. He probably did, and, he was just trying to, figure out a way to make this happen without, too much more pushback, right? They were pretty much on him, but even how he handled his original, issue with getting Ellie away from the group, right?
Mhm.
He killed everyone and he lied to her. He swore to her that that is what
Yep.
happened. And then later to never come back and, I don't know, make it right. I feel like that was wrong as well. As she got older, he had the chance to tell her
Mhm.
the truth, and he didn't until he was confronted with it.
Yeah. Well, and he even says why, because I love you, and I don't want I didn't want to lose your love.
Yeah.
And we had this flashback to Joel as a kid, and standing up to his father and trying to protect his younger brother who had been doing something wrong, but he didn't feel that he deserved the ass beating that he was apparently going to get. Um, and then his father was a violent man, and with that confrontation, and his dad's like, "I hope you do a better job," and he really has with his own daughter. You can see they had a really close relationship, and then with Ellie,
Mhm.
and I think he was so afraid of losing that he was willing to do just about anything to not break it.
Yeah, I think, he almost lost it anyway.
Hmm.
You know, they were estranged. She was really mad at him for what seemed like a while.
About
And
9 months, according to the little thing at the bottom. 9 months later. Yeah.
yeah, that's a long time to be ignored and you don't really know exactly why. Like, I think he had a
Hmm.
feeling, right? Obviously, he wasn't an idiot, but most men, you have to straight out say what the problem is. Um, so 9 months, you remember complaining to Gail, "Why won't she talk to me?" Moaning and groaning like,
Right.
he did something, like he doesn't understand. Uh, so he did lose her. Why or no lie? So
Hmm.
I don't know. And then in the end, I guess when he explained himself and what his dad came back around and he served that line up to Ellie, "Well, if you have your own, maybe
Hmm.
you'll do a little better than me." That was kind of like, I guess, the time for her to say, "I don't know if I can forgive you, but I want to try."
Right. And those are her last words to him. So,
Yeah.
and I think that also played into, because in the next time she sees him is when he's being beaten to death.
Yeah. Wow. So honestly, this takes me all the way back to episode 1 when I said, "Oh, I hope she forgives him before he dies." And I guess she did kind of, right? Kind
Right.
of in her own way. She obviously wanted to work on it, but she wasn't as angry with him, obviously, because the next day she
Hmm.
wanted to go out with him, right? She
Right.
wanted to go on the, um, what do you
Patrol.
call it? Yeah, patrol with him. So she was willing to move forward.
Hmm.
And then that happened,
Yeah.
which
And
sucks.
so, I mean, if this had happened a day before, she
Yeah.
might not have been quite so vengeful.
Mhm.
But they had their moment, and so her working through what had happened, and for her forgiveness of Joel was taken from her,
Mhm. Mhm.
and the fact that Joel never had a chance to find out if he was forgiven, all that was gone.
Yeah.
So yeah, she
Uh,
she was mad.
yeah. And actually, just to kind of jump back to what you had mentioned about that opening scene where we're in like 1983 and
Hmm.
we're seeing Joel and Tommy have this discussion and then their father comes in and Joel's sitting at the table. My nerves were on edge that whole scene. I'm like, "Oh my god. Okay, he doesn't seem like he's going to do anything, but he could." At the
Right.
last minute, he totally could. Like especially when he's explaining how he just got like sucker punched in the face by his own dad.
Yeah.
I'm like, "Oh my god." Be awful. Like that whole scene, I was like just sitting there hoping that the father didn't do anything to him.
Yeah. Well, and his dad was even like, was just trying to justify, I don't know how to be a good parent. I'm
Mhm.
trying here. So I was better. I was better. I
Yeah, he was
wasn't
better
good.
than his previous, his
Right.
father. He didn't, I guess, punch him in the face and break their jaws and stuff,
Right.
but
He's like, I
yeah,
wasn't, maybe I wasn't good, but I was better. And I hope that you can do better. And
yeah,
I think Joe really took that to heart with his own daughter. And then when he lost her, you know, then he again with Ellie. And so he was trying so very hard. And he was this really, like you said, with the gifts and the effort that he was putting into her birthdays,
Mm-hmm.
the guitar. I mean, that effort, dude. And the dinosaur in the museum, and finding the tape of the Apollo, you
Yeah,
know, launch and everything. I mean, that was pretty.
that
I
was a
want
lot of effort.
I want gifts like that.
I know. I
Yeah.
was thinking, I've never gotten any kind of gift that seemed like that much work. That was a lot of work.
Oh yeah. Because sometimes gifts don't need to be a thing. It can be an experience.
Yeah.
And he was giving her these really good life experiences, that were had nothing to do with the hardness of how things had become.
Yeah. All the way up until her 17th birthday,
Yep.
where, he brings the cake and her name is spelled correctly.
Yeah. Very thrilled about that.
He's
Yeah.
like kind of happy. He's going in there and going to her room, and she's in there smoking weed, getting a tattoo, and hooking up with the girl. And he's like,
Yeah.
oh my God, he lost his mind.
Yeah. And I think as a parent, any one of those things he could
Yeah.
have coped with a little bit better than all three at once.
Hmm.
You know, it
Yeah.
was a lot.
He basically said you want to do all the things, right? All
Right.
the things.
You're gonna do all the teenage angsty things all at one time.
Right.
And you could see once he kind of processed it and calmed down, he's like, okay, yeah, all right, taking a step back here.
Hmm.
And he didn't even say, no, you can't move out, no, you can't do this. He's like, it's raining and let me clean the garage up. Maybe you're right. Maybe you need some space.
Yeah.
Which I
Although at
thought,
17, my parents would never. They'd be like, look, you just gonna have to stay here until further notice. I don't know. She's still a minor at that point, but that's why I give him credit because he did let her move into her own space, even though
mhm,
she was technically still underage.
yeah.
So,
And you could see his worry too, though, when he went to the therapist, and he's like, mother images, what does that mean? It's like, what, renewal, growth? No, death. Oh,
yeah, she's like, no, you're confusing that with butterflies, actually.
yeah,
Yeah, this is about death. And he just kind of was like, oh, okay. Well, change in tactic required.
right.
Yeah, which is wild.
So
Oh, speaking of Gail, did you
yeah,
notice the book she was reading?
no, I
She
could.
was she was reading the book titled Earth Abides.
Oh, geez, reading a post-apocalyptic book in a post-apocalyptic world.
Yeah. And what's interesting, did you watch the show on MGM Plus?
I watched the first episode. I haven't watched the rest of it.
Oh, it was so good. It was one season. It was really well done. So when I saw that, I said, "Oh my gosh, I know that." that I didn't read the book, but I'm sure the book was just as good as the show. The book's always usually better.
Oh yeah,
Yeah, I'm like, "Oh, that's kind of interesting." And I wonder if that indicates anything because in the show, because I didn't read the book, it was kind of about growing community and finding others. There are
hmm
others out there. So that makes me wonder, are they trying to indicate that there are other immune people out there? They just have to find them?
yeah. I mean, and statistically speaking,
Mhm.
there should be at least a handful of others scattered around the world.
Mhm.
Now, there's a chance that they may not realize it, or may have been shot before they could, or killed before they could show that they were immune. Because Ellie's situation was very unique. That she was bitten and managed to hide it long enough that you know that she didn't turn, and then that caught the Firefly's attention. And I
Mhm.
mean, there was this whole series of events. So I mean, truthfully speaking, there could be other immune people. They're just being killed because no one's waiting to find out if they turn or not.
Exactly. And actually I thought about Eugene in that moment too. I said, "Well, how do you know he's going to turn? Like,
Yeah.
how do you know? Can you just do you wait a certain amount of time? Do you look for some kind of trigger, some kind of flinch? I don't know. Like, what if he's immune?" I thought that in that moment. I said,
Yeah.
"How do you know?" you instantly kill people, you would never know.
Right. And there is, because there might be more for, and it may not have to be quite as unique as her situation. I mean, there could be someone that has just natural immunity for
Mm-hmm.
whatever reason, or another set of circumstances that has created an immunity in them. But
Yeah.
because no one is waiting to find out, there's no way to know.
Like in Earth Abides. So people just had natural immunity. There was nothing special about them. They didn't know how
Hmm.
they didn't die. It was just a very small, like very minute group of people that were survivors.
Hmm.
So maybe that's what it is here too. Like they are out there. There's just not that many of them.
Right. And because again, statistics say that while things can be unique, they are unique within a frame,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And there's not a lot of people, and there may have been more immune. We are far enough along in this that if for those that may have immunity to it, they would be more likely than at the beginning.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but again, because everyone is dedicated to making sure that anyone bitten is killed, no one's checking. And I don't think aside from maybe Joel and a handful of other people, no one's looking for immune people. Not really.
Right. I don't think they even really consider it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so yeah, and so she is probably one of the few that not only is she immune, she has survived the initial attack to find out she is immune.
Right. Because again, like we said last week, you can still die of your injuries and be immune. So
Right. Yeah, and
yeah.
it doesn't turn them away. It doesn't
Right.
make her invisible to them or anything else. It just makes
Mm-hmm.
her immune.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a superpower, but it's mid level,
Yeah, it's very mid because you're
very mid.
definitely low on the totem pole when it comes to the crew, right? Like if you're
Right,
on a superhero crew, you're last.
right. If
Yeah.
she's bitten, she'll survive. But
Yeah.
if she's eaten, she's game over.
Yeah.
So
If she bleeds to death from being having too many bites and they tear off her skin, she's dead.
right,
Yeah. That's it.
right.
Well,
So I mean, so she has more protection than the average person, but she is still not safe in this world.
mhm. Yeah. Wow. There's so much.
And it's not like it. Now the interesting thing is because because they do know that, because they did know that Ellie was um, immune. They could have actually developed a test without killing her to test for whatever it is that she has in other people.
Yeah.
What is it that's in her right now that allows her to not be turned? And they
Mhm.
probably could have figured that out
Yeah,
and
like
found more.
again with the medicine, they skip so many steps. Why wouldn't you try to figure out a way to detect if people were immune?
Right,
Why would you just assume she's the only one? If you're a medical doctor, why would you assume that?
right. Well, and Joel, she asked, could they
Uh-huh.
have cured everyone? And he did say yes. So
And
there may
that's a
have been
lie.
more going on that we didn't hear about.
Yeah.
That they were certain that this would work.
And I think that is not true, but he just took that information from what he was told.
Right.
Because
Um,
I still don't believe it. I'm like, how do you know they would have cured everyone? I
mhm.
don't think that is accurate at all. But,
Now,
you know,
according to my boyfriend,
hmm
who he said that in the game, one, the facility was way more high tech.
hmm
And it was not just a doctor, there was a group of doctors.
hmm
Um, and basically, they had everything to make the cure except for her. And they had been working on it for a while using Ellie's blood samples or whatever they had already gotten.
hmm
So, according to the game, it was a certainty that if she had died, a cure would have been made.
Okay, so that makes more sense from that perspective.
Hmm.
But just from what we've seen on the screen, it's lacking.
Right. Exactly. So, I mean, from my point of view, from just watching the show, like
Hmm.
you know, it's what iffy. I mean, that was a really sketchy setup there. You know, for you know, it was a it was a dirty OR and a lot of half broken looking equipment. You know what
Yeah,
I
it
mean?
wasn't even very bright in there, if I remember correctly.
Right.
Like, you couldn't even see.
So this was not it, for me. Inspiring confidence.
Right. I agree.
But I guess in the game it was a little more. It looked more like an actual lab, and there were
Okay.
multiple people, and it wasn't just a doctor; it was a team of doctors.
Well, that makes a lot more sense. I just wish that the show had went a little bit, and they didn't have to do too much more work to show
Hmm.
that to us. I mean, just a couple of sentences, spiffy up the hospital a little bit. I don't know. They could have did a little bit of work to make us feel like they knew what they were doing.
Yeah, because this looked like a throw together,
Mhm.
and rather than something that they had been long researching and hoping for.
Right.
So, but even still, even knowing that, I mean, I got to tell you, if someone told me that I had to let one of my kids die, even to save the world, I'm not sure I could make the quote unquote correct choice.
Yeah, and I think that should Dina actually have that baby and they are able to be a family and they're able to, raise a child,
Hmm.
I think they will, understand Joel's point of view even more, like years
Yeah.
later.
Well, and Joel even said, if you have a child of your own,
Yeah.
you'll understand. You know, and again, as a parent, I get Joel's motivation.
Mhm.
Um, I mean, that is a. I don't know that I could comfort myself with saying I saved the world, but I lost my only child.
I think had that had happened, Joel probably wouldn't even be around for much longer
Yeah.
because he was already kind of in a horrible place,
Right.
after he lost his daughter.
Hmm.
He was not that great, and I think the girlfriend he had was, like, having him holding on by the skin of his teeth.
Right. And he
O
had lost her.
Yeah.
You know, and his bridges were slowly being burnt behind him as they traveled.
Mhm.
His network, his connection, almost every place they touched, something bad was happening or happened. Um, you know, it's it's unfortunate, but I really can't condemn Joel for the choice that he made. I there's an abstract, I could save the world, but I have to lose my child, which is my world.
Right.
Um, I I can't. It may not have been the correct choice, but I can't say that it was the morally wrong choice either.
Right. I agree. I think that's just hard for anyone to do.
Yeah.
And and I stand by what I said. I think if a parent did submit and let their child be the world's savior, they wouldn't be long for this earth themselves. They would feel
No.
extreme sadness and guilt over what they'd done, and they would not be around much longer.
Yeah. And I mean, it would. I can see them sticking around long enough to make sure that the
Yeah.
sacrifices that they made were worthwhile. I guess. Um, I mean, we also have to look at all these people that are surviving and go, are they even worth saving? Yeah.
I don't know. That's a good question because a lot of these people are trash.
I mean,
So there's
I mean,
that.
okay, great. We're saving people for what? Because I get the impression that even if you take away the the underlying cause of the civilization collapse, I don't see a kumbaya moment for the world as people are getting cured.
No, the world is broken, right? It's broken. We've got so many like little cult like
Hmm.
communities out there. People are just raiding and pillaging and raping. I don't see like a cure would just bring everything back to normal.
Right. Because it's not like the world right now is perfect. It's not a
Mhm.
paradise. It's not like bad things never happen. You
Right.
know, pick up the news, read the news at all of it a day and go, I don't know. Is my
Yeah.
kid worth saving all of you people? You know,
I don't know. You got to pause and ask that question.
you know, and again, I mean, Joel and Ellie are living in a really good community, but they are one of the very, very few. Actually, it's the only one we have seen that isn't either on the verge of collapse, at war with another group, or completely oppressing their people.
Mhm.
And I don't even with a cure, I can't see like the military, compounds that they've used to suppress people would change. I mean, and they could actually get worse
Right.
since there's no outside force to distract them.
Mhm.
So, yeah, I mean, I'm not saying that a cure wouldn't be a good thing. I just don't know that everyone else is worth saving
For your
if it
kid.
was my child.
Exactly. Exactly. And I think that even now Ellie understands that
Hmm.
because Ellie's like, "Yeah, I know what he did and I don't care."
Right.
She's like, "I'm still going to get revenge." So, even
Yeah.
though Ellie thought, "Hey, this was my task. That was my contribution. That was what I was here for." She really
Hmm.
believed that.
But now that she's out among the world and seeing all the people,
Yeah.
I mean, there might be some reconsideration going on. Do you? No, I don't know about this. Maybe
Mhm.
Joel made the right choice.
Yeah. Absolutely, and now they can have a family and they
Hmm.
can live a life that, Ellie never saw for herself. So I
Right.
think in the long run, she's gonna be very happy that he did what he did.
Right.
So yeah, I don't know. I'm curious to see what's next. This was a much needed episode. We needed it to get like a full understanding of the happy times and the revelations and make us feel sad to see. I think that's the last of Joel. I think it is.
Yeah, it is. Um, this was their final goodbye to Joel.
Mhm.
You know, um, I will say so. The very end of it is Ellie walking through the rain, and all I could think of is, thank God there's rain.
I thought
Yeah,
that because I said after our conversation last week, I'm like, well, maybe the rain will get rid of whatever she has going on with her.
yeah, and she's soaked.
Yeah.
So I mean, there's a because I mean, there's a it would be awful for her to get back there, just turn them.
Hmm.
Although I did want to mention too the tree when they were coming back from the museum. Did you notice the tree?
Oh, it had like fireflies around it, didn't it? I
No,
feel
it
like I
had
saw what
those were
did
the spores.
oh, it was spores. I'm like, what is that floating in the air? I just assumed they were like fireflies or something.
No, those were spores.
Spores. Oh my gosh. She saw it and she stopped and looked and was like, oh my gosh. And she didn't say
Yeah.
anything.
Well, because I'm not sure she knew what they were. It
Hmm.
caught her eye. But in the conditions, while not as dark as the basement, they were wet and it was secluded and, whatever the conditions were right for that. So I think next season we may see more of these spores in the air.
Hmm.
Um, because again, she did notice them there at the tree, and now we've had a whole, couple episodes with the basement. Um, so I think this is going to be the the spores are developing, beyond a, a bite.
Hmm.
So I mean, I guess if they become completely airborne, she's going to find out if there's any more like her. Uh,
Yeah. Absolutely, find out pretty quickly, probably.
yeah. So,
Wow. So I gotta say, I don't know. I heard some people talking about Emmys, and I think if there's a chance for some Emmy nominations to come out of this, it would be this episode. Honestly, Pedro and Bella did amazing in
oh
this
yeah,
episode.
this was I really did enjoy this episode. I thought it was quite stellar.
Hmm. I honestly think it's my favorite of this season, just
You know,
because of all of the emotion that was going on.
and I would probably agree. I think I'm going to agree with you on that.
Hmm.
It was a good. I mean, it was a tight episode, and it had filled in all of the blanks that were there from the beginning of the season, and but in a way that didn't make it feel.
It wasn't bogged down. It
Yeah,
was just enough.
yeah. I was going to say like plastered over. You
Yeah.
know. Um. So yeah, I did. I think they did a really good job, and there was even like questions that I guess we kind of had, but we didn't really pay attention to, like the coffee beans.
Yeah.
Um, you know why Joel and the therapist had so much tension between the two of them. You know, when they know that killing someone that's been bitten is what's needed. Um, and they shouldn't be brought back to the community, but why? You know, and the whole what started the split between her and Joel and everything else. It was just really nice to have those gaps filled in.
Yeah. Speaking of the therapist, Gail, I think that does resonate, like why she feels like she should have, why she was open to helping Joel, even though she couldn't stand him really.
Yeah.
Because she, like you said, those are the rules. So she knew, even though her husband wanted to see her, he
Hmm.
wanted to say goodbye to her, that it really technically wasn't Joel's fault that he didn't.
Right.
He did the action, but the rules are you're not supposed to bring infected beings back here.
Right.
So,
And it wouldn't have mattered who it was that
yeah,
found him. They would have done the same thing.
right. So she kind of has this selfish disdain for him because that's her husband, right?
Hmm.
But on the other side, she also knows that she really should not be directing it at him specifically, I think.
Right.
So, that's where we are.
Well,
Well,
and I understand. And even when Joel was, he lied to both, Ellie and was Eugene.
mhm.
He at least tried to make Eugene's death not so terrifying to Eugene.
Yeah,
You
he's
know,
like,
he took him to this really beautiful place,
yeah.
and said, you can always see your wife's, if you love someone, you can always see their face.
Yeah.
And let him have that moment. Let him gather his courage and his love for his wife. Um, he didn't just shoot him as soon as Ellie walked away.
Mhm.
He gave him that time to come to terms with his own death.
Yeah, he was nice about it.
He was.
He's
He
very
wasn't
kind about it,
right. He
really.
wasn't cruel.
Right.
He wasn't vicious or disdainful. I mean, he was very much aware of the gravity of this death, and
Mhm.
he didn't want to make it any harder than it had to be on anyone.
Right.
So, the sad thing is I Ellie lashing out at him would have been better if she had lashed out at him while they were on the trail rather than when he was talking to the widow.
Yeah. I don't know. I think Joel is like the ultimate, he's a very great character, but I want to say at his root, he is a good person. He just did some bad things along the way
Yeah,
because he thought that he had to.
right.
So, he's definitely not a villain, and I think that is why Ellie is, like, so bent on getting revenge. She's a good guy. That was her dad, even though she didn't wanna, like, admit it, right?
Right.
He was. He adopted her essentially.
Hmm. And I mean, and he loved her as much as he had loved his own daughter,
Right.
and not even in the exact same way.
Mhm.
I mean, this was she. may have started off as a replacement, but she became her own,
Yeah, I think
person.
Ellie saved him really
Yeah.
in a way.
Hmm.
And can I just say that song? Oh God, I was like, not another song, please God. But we got another song. It was fine. It worked out fine.
So yeah, I really, like I said, I really enjoyed this episode. I thought it was really good.
Yeah, same. So we got one episode left.
Hmm.
Who knows what is going to be in that episode? I did see a little quick little snippet, whatever, for next week, but
Hmm.
like okay, I'm just not gonna try to even guess because I don't know. I don't know anything. Do you
And
have any
it could be an
guesses?
absolute redirect for,
Mm,
making you think it's going to be one thing, and it could be something completely different. So who
mhm.
knows?
Yeah, it was a bunch of little flashes of things, so we don't really know much of
Hmm.
anything. You know, like how they did last time when we saw Dina holding the gun. We're like, why is she holding the gun on her? But you know,
Right. I mean, why she, once we saw the episode, oh, that makes sense.
oh,
Yeah,
that
I get
makes
it.
complete sense. Yeah, totally. But
Yeah,
yeah, so we'll see. I'm excited for the finale, actually.
I am too. I mean, they've done a really good job. I haven't been disappointed with any of the episodes, this
No.
whole season. They've really done, and even though it's a very short season, I think they've done a really good job of moving the story along.
And actually, that's my perfect scenario for any of these shows. I'd rather have a short, succinct season
Hmm.
that everything makes sense. We're not wasting hours looking at things that don't move the plot forward, things that just, we've watched some, seasons of things where they had so much wasted time running
Oh
around in
yeah.
circles. So this was really well done. It's a tight plot, it's a tight story. They are following the games,
Hmm.
which is probably the reason why it's so good.
Yeah.
Keep it
So,
up. Keep
yep,
it up, people.
I'm
Let's
happy.
Yeah, I'm happy too. This is like a really nice nice experience.
It is. It's been
Yeah.
very pleasant. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, I think that's it for me. Do you have anything else?
Nope, I don't believe so.
Okay. Well, this has been a really fun time. Thanks for listening to the entire episode. We both appreciate you for doing that. Don't forget to like and subscribe wherever you are listening because we'll be back again next week for the finale, and you'll want to make sure you get that notification.
Hmm.
Also, if you enjoyed the discussion, please leave a 5-star rating wherever you are listening. That really helps us out. Until next time, take care of yourselves. Bye, guys.
Bye bye.